Now, as we continue to advocate for women's rights and gender equality during the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, the majority of women facing GBV suffer in silence without the know-how on the pathway to justice, some trapped in the chains of retrogressive culture. However, men like Tom Onzere and Peter Chem have taken a personal initiative to confront the vice of GBV in their communities by addressing fellow men to end the violence. Our reporter Levis Musumba visited gender-based violence hotspots in Bungoma and Vihiga counties to find out how men are key in ending GBV, which is on the rise in Western Kenya. Here is that report.
More power to women, more power.
More power.
Forward with social justice, forward.
Forward.
Tom Onzere, the founder of Magharibi Justice Center in Vihiga County. His journey began in 2007 and 2017, documenting the aftermath of gender-based violence during the post-election violence. Witnessing the brutalization of dozens of women and girls, Onzere became an advocate for the voiceless.
There were women, especially around Kakamega, who lost their husbands. They watched as their husbands were slaughtered, and some of them even got infected. And those stories were so touching that I got involved into the fight for the eradication of gender-based violence.
Onzere has chosen to stand as a defender of human rights, challenging the repressive cultural norms that have allowed gender-based violence to persist amid the patriarchal nature of this community.
Largely, this community is not very tolerant of women. We have a problem in Vihiga of widow eviction. Currently, we have about 10 cases of women who have been chased away from the homesteads after the husband passes out. We have instances of gang rape. As I say, the level of stigma is still high, and they will tend not to come out to seek justice.
Here, women have no voice, and if violated, they have no right to speak up.
Violation of rape definement comes with a lot of stigma, discrimination. Ile like nikiongelea watanionaje, nikisema wataniulizaje. So ilibaki ile nibaki nayo kama machungu yangu na niyabebe.
For Peter Chem, growing up on the slopes of Mount Elgon, one of the hotspots of gender-based violence in Bungoma County, has witnessed women's suppression by cultural norms and sexual abuse during election time, prompting him to face men in these hills head-on to find a solution.
We have done awareness through the chief's barasas. When we have an opportunity to the funeral areas, our people represent us and say, if you hear such a case of defilement or any violence of gender-based violence, report to the nearest either police station or the chief's office, and then also we can also take over to do a referral in terms of the hospital. In doing so, that has enlightened the public in Bungoma so that people can come out and report the cases. Otherwise, other areas are even doing more than Bungoma are doing because of they have not that knowledge of how they report.
In response to combating gender-based violence in the region, UN Women, in partnership with the governments of Italy and Ireland, rolled out training targeting human rights defenders, set up court users committees and gender desks in police stations and hospitals, focusing on hotspot counties like Kisumu, Bungoma and Vihiga. The program has supported counties in developing and implementing gender-based violence policies with a focus on legal, health, counseling, and shelter services for survivors.
The court came up with a baby called Court Users Committee. That is a signal to you that if there is a window for you here, utilize it and bring your challenges before courts. And before courts is this Court Users Committee. So there is no blame game.
Like in Kisumu, you have the GBVRC Center. They would be able to respond to an issue that's raised. If you went to Vihiga, you'd find the hospitals taking it up, changing. And we've also seen how, because of practice, you actually have new policies that are then incorporated, or a new standard of operating when it comes to dealing with GBV across all the 3 counties that we were working in.
Through community barazas and sensitization programs, Peter and Onzere educate the public about the laws surrounding gender-based violence and penalties for perpetrators, and training male champions of gender-based violence at community level, breaking the cycle of violence and providing hope for a better future.
The fight for gender-based violence cannot be achieved by excluding the men and the boys in the space. So for male inclusion, we're involved in engaging men and boys as partners to the women and girls in achieving gender equality. And moving forward, we would like to see the justice centers escalated to the wards so that wananchi are able to access support for justice redress.
Besides awareness creation, Onzere is drafting a Vihiga County action plan for the peace and security policy bill that will aid in combating the rising cases as well as ensuring culprits face the law for their crimes.
Our starting point was to have a GBV policy. We have started work on it. We got the zero draft and the first draft, but we are positive before June next year we shall have a GBV policy in Vihiga.
The fight to end gender-based violence is far from over. However, these men are rewriting the new narrative, challenging cultural norms and breaking the silence. Through education, advocacy and collaboration, they are paving the way for a future where every person, regardless of gender, can live free from the shadows of violence. For KTN News, I'm Levis Musumba.
Well, following that report by Levis Musumba, it brings us to the end